One of the coolest techniques in all of Dragon Ball belongs to and was originated by one of the most underrated characters in the series, Krillin. The monk-turned-turtle school disciple had created a technique that flattens ki to the point it has a razor-sharp edge while spinning incredibly fast, allowing the technique to cut through enemies far beyond the user's power level with ease. This always left us as fans questioning why. Why isn't Krillin using the Destructo Disk more and finishing off enemies in a single move? Some may be saying that enemies will dodge, others will say that it isn't in character of him, and the remainder probably refer to the filler scene of the Destructo Disk breaking on Perfect Cell's neck to say it has limits. While I agree there probably are limits for the technique, I don't think they are very low, and notably, Krillin is willing to use the technique as he did against Nappa, Vegeta, and Frieza. His mistake was using it at opportunities which allowed these characters to dodge the attacks or take minimal damage from them. Today, I want to establish two major instances where Krillin could have won the fight using the Destructo Disk, but didn't. I'm Carthu, and this is What If Krillin Used the Destructo Disk More? Make sure you like and subscribe for more Dragon Ball content, and let's jump into it. To start, we have a moment Krillin could have used the Destructo Disk more effectively in the Saiyan saga. In the very beginning of the battle against the Saiyans, the Z-Fighters face a tremendous tragedy as Yamcha is killed by a self-destructing Cyberman. This leads to Krillin becoming enraged and unleashing the Scattering Bullet technique, which eliminates all the Cybermen, except one that hit away, but he's not as important here, and hits Nappa and Vegeta dead on. The notable moment here being that after Nappa and Vegeta are hit, they are enshrouded in smoke that doesn't disperse even after the hidden Cybermen could jump out of hiding and get killed by Piccolo. So this would be plenty of time for Krillin, if he weren't being overconfident, to sense that Nappa and Vegeta are still alive. With Krillin sensing both are alive, he would be plenty capable of charging and launching a Destructo Disk that the two Saiyans would have no way of knowing is coming, and even if they did, it took Vegeta seeing it to determine that they can't touch it. With this, the Saiyans are handled in one attack by none other than Krillin, avenging Yamcha in the process. Notably, this storyline would lead to no journey to Namek. Yamcha is able to be revived right on Earth, and Goku arrives back to Earth with no fight to be had. Things are peaceful, but on Namek, it's not going as smoothly. Frieza would go on to retrieve all their Dragon Balls with relative ease, despite the hiccup of having their scouters destroyed by Elder Muri. Every village is slaughtered in the name of Frieza being granted the ultimate power, immortality, becoming a being that even Beerus can't destroy. The issue for Frieza is by slaughtering the Namekians, he had no way to actually make the wish on the Dragon Balls, as they require you to speak Namekian in order to activate. So, furious and feeling conned, Frieza leaves planet Namek to rot, seeing no value in selling it or destroying it at this point. He wouldn't bother with Earth, as it simply seems like another con, and if he wasted his time on another useless planet, he'd have more rage than he can handle. Also notable, without Frieza's premonition from Vegeta being on Namek, the Ginyu Force would continue to and would successfully conquer planet Yardrat in the name of the Galactic Tyrant. Back on Earth, the inevitable terror is about to ensue. The androids were years away from awakening, and with no future Trunks to save him, Goku would die to the heart virus. As I have to say every video that mentions it, no, the heart virus isn't from Yardrat. Goku contracts the virus 2.5 to 3 years after returning from Yardrat. It's an Earth-based virus with an Earth-based cure. This leads to the androids taking over the world slowly but surely, and the lack of Super Saiyans only exacerbate this problem since all the characters are far weaker in this version of the story. Eventually, Cell would fully develop in Jiro's secret lab, being the sum of Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo. With Vegeta's arrogance, he still seeks perfection and does whatever he can to track down the androids. eventually finding them and consuming them both with no difficulty whatsoever. Perfect Cell is born. But with barely any people left on Earth, he seeks to fulfill his ultimate desire of having fun by striking terror into people and leaves the planet for inhabited worlds, eventually running across worlds under the rule of Emperor Frieza. Slowly, he kills and instills fear into the people of this Frieza planet, a fear that surpasses their fear of Frieza. After sending many of his finest soldiers to try and deal with this threat, but all falling short, Frieza seeks to handle it himself. So you must be Frieza then, the one these soldiers cry to in their final moments? I'd assumed you'd be taller. Frieza ignores the comment and transforms into his final form, knowing that any power reading on this creature has broken every scanning device they have. I'd kindly ask you to leave my planet, but I'd prefer you knelt before your emperor instead. Do that, and I'll consider letting you join my army to replace the soldiers you've killed. Cell simply smirks. The power he's feeling from Frieza was the most enticing power he's ever sensed. Instead of replying to Frieza's offer, Cell simply begins to attack the tyrant who can't keep up at all. Even without Frieza's DNA, Cell absorbed 2 androids that were stronger than Frieza, so he simply stands no chance against Cell. Once Frieza is put to the ground on death's door, the Goku in Cell begins to surface, and he says he might want to spare Frieza. He'd like to fight him again if he gets stronger. Oh, I will live through this, but will you? Frieza blasts the planet below him, and as he does, Cell quickly finishes Frieza, but not before the planet is destroyed. In the dust and debris floats Cell by himself, triumphant after defeating Frieza once and for all. From here, things get messy as Boo is currently on Earth, the place he was sealed, and even if he is transported around the universe in Babidi's ship, it's hard to say how quickly he'd be resurrected. This is honestly where things become less interesting and more convoluted, so I think we should move on to our second scenario. This is weirder than the first instance of Krillin not using the Destructo Disk, as you could argue, and I'd say validly, that Toriyama hadn't conceived of the technique yet at that point, even though canonically Krillin knew it at that point. However, this second instance is just really strange and only serves to build artificial tension. This is an actual plot contrivance in Dragon Ball. You see, in the Frieza saga, Krillin gets impaled by Frieza, healed by Dende, cuts off Frieza's tail with a Destructo Disk, then launches 4 more Destructo Disks in an instant and is chased by Frieza. What this shows is Krillin can instantly form and launch multiple Destructo Disks, which is very important to remember because 2 pages later, he blinds Frieza with the solar flare, leaving the tyrant wide open for the old slice and dice. Instead of doing that though, he asks Vegeta to attack Frieza. Really not the smartest move. So let's assume he does instantly launch 4 Destructo Disks at Frieza, ending him once and for all. What happens next? For starters, we don't get Super Saiyan Goku. Krillin does bring Dende over to Goku's healing capsule to restore him more quickly, finishing the healing process earlier. Vegeta grabs one of the Ginyu's pods and begins to make his way off the planet. He tells Krillin he'll let them live since they killed Frieza, but next time they won't be so lucky. Goku steps out of Frieza's ship before he takes off and tells Vegeta he wants to fight him again someday. Vegeta doesn't respond and just decides to take off. So Goku and the others return to Earth. This is honestly where the story becomes unfortunate once again though. King Cold wouldn't come to Earth as Frieza is actually dead and can't tell him about the planet, so when he finds the body of his son on Namek, King Cold destroys the planet and all the Namekians on it, assuming it was their fault. There's no future timeline here since there's no future Trunks to travel to the past, and that means the Z-Fighters are unprepared for the attack of the androids. Without the time travel to alter events, androids 17 and 18 are the ones who are released on the world. Basically, this is the future timeline. Without warning, the Z Fighters are painfully unprepared for the androids in terms of raw power. However, Goku knows how Krillin killed Frieza, and he has been practicing it with Krillin to master the technique combination for himself. While Goku himself is dead and unable to fight, the training with Krillin has prepared Krillin to use the technique combination against the androids, and since they can't sense ki, he successfully manages to slice both with the combination, ending the threat of the androids once and for all. It would be over 2 decades before a new threat emerges, the threat of Cell. Luckily, with over 20 years to train, and with Piccolo still having the ability to merge with Kami, an imperfect Cell is just no issue whatsoever. Considering Kami is concerned regarding Cell in their original story, he would be equally concerned here as well. This would lead to him merging with Piccolo, and without the androids to absorb, the newly emerged Namekian is able to take down the imperfect amalgamation. Since Buu was sealed on Earth though, it would only be a few years before the resurrection is attempted. With no Super Saiyans and no drastic increase in power from the Cell era, this fight is entirely one-sided and results in the rebirth of Majin Buu. Now, I will say, Supreme Kai did attempt to train everybody in order to get them strong enough to face the oncoming threat. However, the training he puts them through is just not enough to overcome the gap of Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2, which would be required to defeat Dabura. From here, things become far more convoluted and worse, so I'll just end it there. These 2 scenarios were pretty fun to cover, and I think were an interesting way to tackle a what if. To be clear, in both of these scenarios, Beerus would go to Broly and Paragus in search of the Super Saiyan God, so you should watch What If Beerus Went to Vampa instead of Earth to find out what happens there. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more Dragon Ball content, and thank you so very much for watching.